Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to A Slice, A Spice, A Dice movie and stuff reviews. Y'all, today we are going to be talking about a series. It is on Hulu. I about peed in my damn pants when I saw that season 2 was out. I didn't think it was coming. It was a complete surprise. And Matt, my partner, texted me and was like, oh yeah, by the way, this is out. And I was like, oh, what? So the series that we were talking about, you already know, you saw the thumbnail, you clicked it. It's called Only Murders in the Building. Now, this is how this is going to go. We are going to follow this through the episodes they release. This is like a slow release, that kind of a thing. And so what we'll do is I'm going to do it on this channel and I'll just talk about it. I have my phone here, and so what I've done is I've watched episode 1 and 2. That's what they've released at the time of this recording. And I've just made notes. I'm going to go through, I'm going to talk about it, maybe theories, that kind of a thing. So all that being said, 100% spoiler alerts, right? So if you haven't seen it or you're whatever, then yeah, don't watch this, okay? Like, click off, come back later. Also, for it to make sense, you are probably going to want to watch season 1, because this is 100% to me something that's like, it won't hit the same if you don't watch season 1 going into this. This is, especially for my true crime fans out there, some of the best TV I've seen in a while. Now, I also want to say before we get started, if you're new to this channel here, I have 2 other channels. I have a true crime channel and then like a podcasty version of that channel. The links are down in the description below. This channel is kind of like my fun channel. I'm into like horror movies, you know, scary stuff, TV shows, that kind of a thing. And so there was a main focus of just horror films over here. I'm going to kind of broaden that horizon a little bit to do like, you know, other films, other stuff like that. So that's why I was like, you know what, I was trying to decide, do I do this true crime thing, or it's not true crime, that's the thing, it's fiction. So I was like, I'll do it over here in this channel, but I'm going to start trying to branch out of that, because I've seen a bunch of movies that aren't horror movies and I want to talk about them, but I haven't put on here. So that's it. Also, that being said, I have not posted on here in like 2 or 3 months. I apologize. It has just been busy with work, and I've just had to do my other 2 channels because that's what keeps the Sofa Squad going. So that being said, I am going to try and start posting more over here, and this was like the perfect opportunity because I was so excited about it. So that being said, be sure to subscribe, come back and talk to me about it, and then when it's all over with or whatever, we'll try and do a live chat about it. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to read like the little overview of what this is about in case you are not familiar with it or whatever, just to kind of get us all on the same damn page, okay? So again, it's called Only Murders in the Building. It is on Hulu. There's 2 seasons. Season 2 just released. Okay, so this is kind of like the overview of season 1, right? But again, I'm imploring you to start with that. Okay, so 3 strangers share an obsession with true crime and suddenly find themselves wrapped up in one. When a grisly death occurs inside their exclusive Upper West Side apartment building, the trio suspects murder and employs their precise knowledge of true crime to investigate the truth. Perhaps even more explosive are the lies they tell one another. Soon the endangered trio comes to realize a killer might be living among them, and as they race to decipher the mounting clues before it's too late. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's season 1. Now again, we are completely in spoiler alert nation right now, so just be careful moving forward. So spoiler alert, you know, yes, they figured out who it was in season 1. You know, they move on, and at the very end of it, there is a murder of one of the main characters in the building, and it's almost like, oh my god, it's starting all back. So obviously they open up season 2 to this, and season 2 starts off like, it just doesn't miss a beat, and they did such a good job at this with this show. A lot of times, sorry, I just had to pull up some. A lot of times these shows have a difficult time doing that, but it's like you don't even notice it, right? They just don't miss a beat. They go right into it. So there's that. Now, let me just pull my notes up here and we'll start talking. Now, before we even do that, here is the 3 main characters. We're not going to go into it deep, but we're talking about Selena Gomez plays Mabel, Steve Martin plays Charles, and Martin Short plays Oliver. Y'all, these 3 together are dynamite, okay? I am talking amazing chemistry. I mean, I've become a huge fan of Selena. This is like her only real major work that I've seen here. And as far as like this kind of stuff goes, I already knew Steve Martin, Martin Short. I grew up on them, so, you know, I already knew their work, but it's excellent. Okay, so let me just pull up my stuff here and we'll start talking about it. And again, like I said, it's episode 1 and 2. And I'm just going to go down and make commentary. So we'll start with season 2, obviously, episode 1. person of interest, it is called. Okay, so last season, the murder mystery, the old woman, she was like the board president or something. Her name's Bunny. She is found murdered. That's what I'm talking about. Now, and again, if you haven't seen this, you don't want to. I mean, I'm spilling tea here. This is on last season. But at the very end of it, we see Selena's character, Mabel, go into her own apartment. Bunny's stumbling out. She has a knitting needle. Oh, she's dead. And then people come in, and here is Mabel over Bunny's dead body with Mabel's knitting needle in her chest. Now, nobody liked Bunny because she was the president of the board. Like, there's all this bad blood with the podcast and all that, so very guilty looking. We see her getting arrested, Mabel that is, and the other guys too. So just know that that's what we're entering into. Okay, so there's that. So that's just what it starts off with. So we see them being interrogated. By that I mean like the Steve Martin, Selena. I'm going to probably go back and forth with their character names and whatnot. But the three main characters, they're being interrogated. And he plays part of the podcast back to where Mabel, Selena Gomez's character, talks about a knitting needle dream where she kills a man with a knitting needle. Clearly it ain't a good look, right? Then they ask about the knife that they used, and it's an aha moment for everyone because they're like, well, wait a minute, like that's, you don't even have the murder weapon or whatever. So this basically enables them to get let loose. The three people, the three suspects, obviously Mabel's in the worst light, right? But they're let loose, they're a person of interest, and so we enter into it. One thing this show does that's very well is it's like creating the issue, the problem, what's going on, and how to get them tangled back up into this. Because one complication that I was curious about how they were going to handle was the fact of, okay, wait a minute, how are you going to get these people who just got involved in this huge murder mystery, made a podcast, all this stuff, and now you're going to do it again? Like, how will you pull off season 2? Y'all, I'm not lying, they did it very gracefully. So let's keep going. Okay. So the three of them are let loose, their person of interest, that kind of thing. So Mabel goes back to her crime scene-ridden apartment at this point. There's blood all over the place, all this stuff. And she has to clean the blood up and whatnot. So we see these scenes. Now, apparently through all this with social media and all this kind of stuff, the world has taken a liking to a mural that is in her apartment. And an owner from an art gallery is like, hey, I want you to come. I saw this. She gets in her DMs. She's like, I want you to come to my art gallery. And, the world loves this mural and it's been inspirational, all this stuff. So Mabel's like, okay, cool. So there's that. Now, another big thing in this season is Amy Schumer is moving into what used to be Sting's apartment there in the building. I question Amy Schumer being in this, but it's working so far. Okay. Where did it go? Okay, Amy Schumer is moving into the building. She gets into the elevator with Martin Short. It's very cringe, but you know how Amy, that's kind of like her shtick. Like, she kind of makes these cringy moments for her comedy. She wants to buy the rights to season 1. Then Steve Martin's character, Charles, he gets an offer to play Uncle Brazos on his show's reboot. Now, if you recall, he is an actor, not anymore, but he was on this like famous show way back when called Brazos. They're rebooting it, but he'll be like the older uncle dude or whatever. So one key element to put here is these 3 different things. We see each of the main characters has people coming after them because now they have infamy. They are famous. Everyone knows their face because they're attached to this podcast and now this murder. They're suspects, right? And so there's that going on. So you have to question and immediately look at, this is how the show is possibly setting this up, because all of these people are attaching themselves to them and you know that they do not have good intentions, right? Like, there's one of these people do not have their best interests at play, but they will also play on these characters' wishes, hopes, desires, all that kind of stuff, because they're still human, right? Okay, let's keep going. So them become podcast. Okay, so now the 3 have become the focus of another podcast by Cindy. I can't remember her last name, but the super popular host. To me, what she sounds like is Phoebe from Criminal. I think that's the name of it, or the woman who did the Adnan podcast, and it might be the same person, I can't remember, but it's like a play on that like super popular podcast in real life. This show has like that version of it, so now she's making a podcast on the people who made the podcast, right? And so you're kind of seeing that play out. So they're getting ready to have their names run through the mud, because one thing that this show does do is it portrays this rather accurately, I think, where you see in the true crime world where all these possible narratives, possible suspects, possible this, possible that happens, and everybody runs over here and blames this person, and runs over here and blames this person, and in the turn, innocent people get their lives and names destroyed, right? Because it ends up not being them, but everybody in the public bandwagon, social media just clobbered all over this person because, hey, we think this is who it is. Well, these three characters can clearly see that they're next in line for this, right? All this is feeding into the making their world smaller, making their problem so big that they are forced to now have to solve the current crime, right? If you just look at basic short storytelling 101, what is the wish? What is the desire? Now complicated. Does the character want a glass of water? What is preventing them from getting the glass of water? There's your story. You know what I mean? And run with it. And this is doing a very good job at it. Okay, here we go. So then we see the three of them meet, and Mabel says that she thinks Bunny said something, like her memory's coming back to her from that night when Bunny was dead. The number 14, and so there's that. Okay, this one's kind of big. Then they are in Mabel's apartment, and they hear Bunny's voice, and they decide to go through the vents to her place. They're like, obviously they know it's not her, but they're like, what is this? And so they discover that Bunny had a bird, like a parakeet or something, that sounds just like her. So then they start searching her apartment, and while they're doing this, another one of the neighbors comes in, and the neighbor's like, I'm here to get, Bunny was into erotic art, and she had this picture, it's worth millions, yada yada yada, and then they discover it's missing, and they're like, oh my god, and they're like, it's worth $1 million. So remember, the three are hiding out in the closet at this point or whatever. So they discover a secret elevator in the closet that goes down into this outdoor area of the building, totally secret. So here we see this motive, okay, this picture's missing, here's a secret thing, Bunny's dead, okay. So then Martin Short finds a card and Bunny's stuff from someone saying they want the painting. So this is becoming a central theme, but as always that we see in these type shows, it's episode 1. They're going to throw us off on little different trails and piece the story together very slowly. Okay, so then Mabel has another memory of Mabel has another memory of Bunny saying savage when she's dying. This will become prevalent a little bit. Then Charles comes home and discovers that the missing painting from Bunny's is hanging in his house, and the naked man in it is his father. And that's my notes for episode 1. So again, we'll just talk about this and we'll move right into episode 2. So that right there, you're like, oh my god, why is his naked father in this photo? Why is the picture, the artwork in his house? Whoever took it from Bunny's and put it there has to know, who's doing this, right? Okay, then, and we'll get some of these answers in episode 2 of this backstory, and that's one thing that this season is doing, is adding some more backstory to these characters and letting us know why they make the choices that they do in life that they did, and I find that very interesting. One thing that's very good about the writers and the show is I feel like they really fill out the characters that we see. One thing I think is so common in TV shows these days is the characters are just little, fake figures that come on the thing, and it's there's not much to them. You don't connect with them, and then they're killed or whatever happens, or they go away, and it was just, whatever. This show, I think, does a good job. So there's that. Now, I've kind of said what I wanted to say about episode 1, building the potential plot, the motives, all the stuff. Excellent. Had me drawn in because I was scared. I'm not gonna lie, I was scared. I was like, please don't make it horrible. Please don't make it horrible. It didn't disappoint. Now, sometimes they can lasso you in with the episode 1, and then you're like, okay, well, let's go see what episode 2 is about. So let's go ahead and talk about episode 2. Oh, God. So episode 2, we learn Bunny's childhood story, right? Basically, she grew up in this, very kind of, you know what it sounded like to me, is the Biltmore story, that kind of vibe, right? Where she ends up growing up in this apartment that we see now. So, of course, she knows about the secret shaft, the secret elevator, because the builder put it in there for himself, and the historical narrative is very interesting, right? We also learned that Charles's father wanted to be an actor, and this will become a little bit more prevalent here in a little bit towards the end of the show. This is what I'm talking about with them really filling these characters out and letting us know who they were. Okay, then when the three take the painting, so the three are like, oh my god, we have to take the painting down. The word savage is on the back. Now remember, this is the word that Bunny said when she was dying, and so this is Charles's name or something like that, like his last name or something. So there's this tie-in with that. It's his dad name, all this stuff, and you're like, what? You know what I mean? Like, it's very much looking like, okay, why is the fingers pointing at him kind of a thing. Okay, so then Howard. Remember, Howard is the kind of like quirky neighbor with a cat and all that. He lives in the building. He's still around for season 2. Still just as bitchy. Well, he stops by. And now, remind you, he knocks on the door, and the 3 of them have this painting. They're trying to figure out what to do, all this stuff. Well, he has a black eye, and he invites them to Bunny's memorial. Now, remember, the whole building saw them get arrested, and most of the building thinks that they killed her. So it's this awkward kind of a vibe, right? And, you know, he's basically like, well, you should probably come, because they're like, no, that would be awkward for us to come, you know, because, like, people think we killed her. And they're like, yeah, but then it would be even more awkward if you didn't, because then it would look like you're even more guilty. You know what I'm saying? Like, all these tropes that we think of in the true crime world are present in this, right? So, you know, he's like, you need to come remember her, all that. So then Mabel, wait, hold on, let me say, he stops black eye, they just had to sneak the paint. Oh, so they're like, you know what we'll do? We'll go to the thing. This is how we'll sneak the painting back into her apartment. Somebody will take the painting down to the secret thing. Somebody will go and sneak it into her bedroom. We'll get it back up, and it'll be a plan, right? So that's gonna happen. Then Mabel gets an invite from Alice back to the art gallery. Alice was the person who's like the little art gallery woman. And when she goes, Alice has made a sculpture, and she's like, it's of you. And she's like, I want you to chop it up with the axe. She doesn't really talk that way, I don't think, but I just want to do that. And Mabel's like, And now, mind you, Alice wants to record it. She has all these cameras set up, and the whole time I'm like, don't do it, Mabel. Don't do it. Because again, I'm just like, this person does not have your best interests. They do not have it. The vibes are bad. So, okay. Then she chops it up and does all that, and then they make out. Now, there was huge sexual tension between them the whole time. So this is like a new thing. It's like, okay, because Maple's guy, boyfriend and all that, he's gone, all that kind of stuff. So we have a new love interest. Again, they're keeping it fresh. They're keeping it, you guessing, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so then Charles goes back for the painting. Okay, so the whole thing I talked about a minute ago with the painting, where they were like, oh my God, we'll sneak it in. Well, they tried to do this, but when Charles comes down the elevator to meet them around back with the painting, he locks himself out of the damn elevator. Then they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do, right? We have to go back up into the thing, and they're like, well, the party's already over. It'd be weird if we go knock on the door and try this again. So then somebody's coming to the dumpster around there, and they're like, just hide it behind the dumpster. So they go hide the damn painting, the $1 million painting, inside the dumpster. So there's that. Charles comes back down later to get said painting, and it's gone, which we already knew that was going to happen, right? So then Martin Short's character goes to Amy Schumer's house to talk to her about this whole thing about buying season 1 and making it a TV show. And she has the painting hanging up on her wall, and I'm like, oh my God. Okay. And so then after that, wait, what is it? They go to a memorial. Oh, so at the memorial, so there's another thing here too. I'm kind of jumping around. At the memorial, they see that a new woman named Nina is the new president of the building. Howard's there. Remember, Howard's kind of bitchy. And so he's like, oh yeah, well, she's like a total bitch and da-da-da. So there's going to be something up with that, right? Now, they haven't focused that much on her, and she was like doing the touching her belly to insinuate that she's pregnant. I think we will see more from this Nina person, because they very quickly she's like, oh, don't pay attention to her. And notice how in these shows where that's always the person who's doing some shady stuff, because they don't make a big deal out of them. The ones they make a big deal out of, I don't know. Anyways, okay. So now at this whole thing, the little memorial, Bunny's mother shows up at one point, and she's like, no, that's my painting. The painting wasn't Bunny's, it was mine. Now this opens a can of worms, right? Now at one point, Bunny's mother gets up and she sniffs the 3 main characters, and she's like, they didn't kill Bunny. She's like, this one, talking about Martin Short, he knows something, but they didn't kill her, which I thought was interesting. Because obviously we know they didn't, as the audience, kill her or whatever. So then so we're jumping back now. So then Martin Short goes to Charles's apartment after he leaves Amy's and sees that she has the painting. pardon me. And he's like dishing, right? He's like, oh my God, girl. It's like, this, Queen up in Sting's old apartment has got the painting. So then Bunny's mom... Okay, so it's like, this is what happens. I'm sorry I messed up. So Martin Short goes to Charles' apartment, and it's like Charles opens the door and it's him and Mabel. And so then Martin Short starts just dishing all this tea. Well, he doesn't see Bunny's mother is right there behind them. So then it's like, oh my God, I just sat here and said that who has the painting, right? So then she marches her ass up to Amy's apartment, and it's like, we're going to figure out that, what's up with this. When she goes in, she's like, this is a fake. This isn't even the real thing. And then Amy's basically like, well, I didn't really want it anyways, and especially if it's a fake. I don't want your dad to balls on my wall. Bye, you can take it. And so there's that, but so this obviously opens the questions up of, well, who made the fake? Where's the real one? Why is all this going on, right? Okay, so then the neighbor shows up to Martin Short's condo with Bunny's bird. Okay, so Bunny's bird, remember? The neighbor who was kind of like her friend who was looking for the picture earlier shows up and is like, oh, you know what? I looked over the will and Bunny wants you to have the bird. And so he takes the bird. He's like, oh my God, 100% I will tell you this. And even though it does happen at the end of this episode, the bird will become prevalent because of the way it says stuff. The bird probably saw who killed Bunny and will become an integral part of the storyline, right? And like just kind of leading us down that path. Okay. Now we see a flashback scene. And we've seen this throughout the episode, but it's of Charles when he was outside a high-rise as a kid. And his dad was taking him and pretending like, okay, I'm going to do an audition. And it was the high-rise that he lives in now or whatever. And so his dad goes up there. Well, like hours later, the police bring his dad down, and he has like his shirt's all torn up, and he's like, Dad, what's going on? And it's like, that's my son, for God's sakes, and you're just like, oh my God. So a couple of things earlier in the flashbacks, his dad was like, why doesn't Mom want you to be an actor? And he was like, because she's a dream killer, son. And you're like, oh, maybe this is why Steve Martin became an actor. Well, then, so fast forward to current times, Charles talks to Bunny, and he's like, did you have an affair with my dad? Like, what's going on? Why is my dad naked in this picture with whoever was living up here, all this? So it turns out Bunny's like, yeah, I was having an affair with him, and so was the artist or whatever in the other building. So it's like, his dad was going from this building to this building, having an affair with these two different women, right? So this is like a huge thing for him to sink in, because he was leaving his son down on the bench for the doorman to watch him as he is doing this under the guise of, I'm going for an audition, right? So that's major drama. So then the three main characters are around the bird, and it says, I know who did it, cock-a-doodle-doo. I think it does the chicken thing, but it's doing the I know who did it thing. And so there's that. Okay, so I'm putting the phone down. I got a little excited there. I'm sorry, okay? I just can't help it, right? So let's talk about it for a second. When I say let's talk about it, really, I've kind of said all my thoughts about it. I think the bird will become prevalent. I think that they've introduced Amy Schumer's character, the art gallery character, and who is the third person that clearly has bad intentions? There's Mabel's character, Martin Short's character, and then Steve Martin is doing is it the podcast for him? I believe that's what, the TV show and the podcast, because he slept with a podcast woman, and that's how she got in or whatever. So the whole dynamic of all these, people coming after them to make a buck off of their infamy, and that's kind of how they are framing the storyline to their own podcast. If you're infamous and all this kind of stuff, it will become very prevalent. Do I think it's one of those three people that did the murder? Probably not, because remember in the first season, and again, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, and I won't say who the actual murderer was, but when we learned who the real murderer was, which along the way you could kind of start being like, the person was not made to look bad or devious or anything like that. Now you're dealing with two things. Who really killed Bunny? But also you have grimy people out to exploit these people, right? Because they have fame, they have notoriety, they can make, just like we see in today's social media world, attention equals dollar signs, right? So there's that. The comedy in this is still spot on. It's still funny. It's not overdone. It's very like New York at times, if you will. and I am here for it, y'all. I am like on pins and needles for the next episode. So let me know if you have theories already. Let me know what they are. I'm curious to hear. I mean, I don't really even have a theory yet because it's so soon into it, and I think at the very beginning they're just throwing stuff. If anything, I think Nina will become prevalent. I don't think Howard had anything to do with it. I just think he's kind of a ditzy neighbor, and even though they're trying to kind of at times make it look like, well, what about this and what about that with the main characters, I don't think that's the case. I think we could have a surprise character related to Steve Martin's character somehow, some way of that. Hell, maybe it was Steve Martin, you know, some kind of something to do with his mother or whatever. We don't know. But it's going to be of that flavor. So anyways, that's it. Don't forget to subscribe here if you want to keep coming back and talking, or to my other two channels. All the links are down below. Thank you for hanging out and watching. Let me know what you think. And until we gather around all this damn horror stuff behind me, I'll see you soon.